So, Greg, I've just been wondering, I've been hearing so much talk recently about harnesses. What is a harness?
So when we talk about harness, we're talking about an agentic harness. That begs the question, what is an agent? My favorite is Simon Willison's definition. An agent is an LLM with tools running in a loop to accomplish a goal. The main thing a large language model does is next token prediction. You feed it a bunch of tokens or a bunch of words, and it does fancy autocomplete to figure out what should complete that sentence or statement or string of text. We came up with function calling. And so the idea here was that you could sort of prime the LLM and you could say, hey, I have these functions that you can run. The function signature looks like this. You pass it these parameters. Those functions could do all sorts of things, right? But generally speaking, what you're doing is using these functions or tools to go grab context that's external to the LLM, and then to feed that context into the context of your conversation with the LLM so that it can augment its response. That's the tool portion. How do we give the LLM access to information that's not baked into its training data? And then there's this portion of running in a loop, right? So it's not just a one-for-one. There's some mechanism there where we are programmatically evaluating the output of the large language model to determine, is it done? Has it reached the goal? And if it's not, then we feed it more instructions programmatically, and then we have it just run in that loop. Those are the portions of like, what is an agent? And my definition of an agentic harness, the harness is everything after the LLM. The harness is, how do you give it tools? The harness is, what programming do you have that's running it in the loop? What programming do you have that is evaluating the output of the LLM to determine if it completed its task or not? And all of that infrastructure, which doesn't have to be a lot, but that is the agentic harness. All that stuff you put around an LLM to turn it into an agent.
That makes so much sense because I had been thinking of the harness as like, it's like the IDE or it's like what's running your agent, but it sounds like your definition is lower level of that.
If you think about the most popular agentic harnesses today, so like a Claude Code or an Antigravity or a Codex, right? There are different interfaces that you can use to interact with that harness. So I think it's really interesting that if you decouple the harness from the interface, you're saying the important piece here is how we control the logic and the behavior of the LLM. And then you can sort of like swap in what interface does the user prefer.
Totally. And every use case.
And every use case. Absolutely. There's probably actually a lot of use cases where you don't even need a user interface. You just need a programmatic interface to the agent, like an autonomous agent. And then coding, your interface is going to look different than it is with a consumer chat app, but it might be the same agentic harness powering all those interactions.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Thank you.